Nearly 50 years ago, when Dwight Eisenhower was in the White House, a group of social scientists did an exhaustive survey of American voters. Their findings? Most 1950s Americans were dismally ill-informed on the issues, knew next to nothing about politics, and cared even less. So, when a new generation of scholars decided to redo the work and see how much better informed 21st century Americans are compared to their grandparents, they expected to see a big difference.
The most important political story of the day.
After all, this is the era of nonstop political information. Cable news channels, blogs, polls, websites.
There's a lot of drama once again.
Pundits and talking heads galore. But University of Iowa political scientist Michael Lewis Beck called the new findings a shocker.
Most voters, most of the time, don't pay any attention to politics. They don't know a lot about politics. They don't follow politics. There may be, if you're lucky, one or two issues at most on their minds.
In their book, The American Voter Revisited, Lewis Beck and his colleagues found Americans tune out most of that flood of information on the air and online. Most vote either Democrat or Republican because, well, that's how their parents voted. And most can't even come up with a definition of what it means to be conservative or liberal. The research shows basic bread and butter issues are what voters focus on.
They do care about the economy a lot.
As far as foreign policy goes,
if there's not a war, foreign policy is on nobody's mind.
We talked with a number of eligible voters in Washington, D.C. and California, most of whom admitted they weren't really paying attention to the details.
Well, I know I have more time. I have a few more months, so I plan in those 4 months I really try to focus on that.
Do you feel that you're pretty well informed?
Not really, but I know enough. You know what I mean? Like enough to know who to vote for.
So you know what the candidates' positions are on things?
Kind of. Working on that.
But some political scientists say the new research is misleading. It's too focused on facts and figures that few people bother to memorize.
If we ask them the facts, they look dumb. If we think about how they sort people and figure out who's friend and who's foe and who's on which side, they look pretty good.
Lewis Beck says their lack of knowledge doesn't necessarily mean American voters are foolish. They just make their political decisions based on everyday life experiences, not position papers or party platforms.
Let's put it this way. They don't know the policy details. They don't need to know the policy details. They know the policy outcomes. They know what they're living through. They know if their son is in combat. They know if their neighbor's unemployed. I mean, they know. They experience the results of the policy, and they decide on the basis of what they experience whether the person in charge is doing a good job.
The conclusion? American voters may not know much, but maybe they know enough.
Thank you, sir.
Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Washington.